One of the biggest problems emerging managers have is they don't have the know-how or the expertise on how to spend their time. They believe a lot of conventional wisdom when a lot of it's not true. So my name's Guy Costin. I'm the founder, CEO of Dakota. Me and our investment sales team have created a show called the Emerging Manager Growth Show. What we do on this show is we demystify everything that a lot of conventional wisdom comes from. And the whole goal is for an emerging manager to be able to do more with less. And you have a very experienced team in myself, and I have each one of my team members on. We break down all the tips and tricks and techniques for exactly what an investment salesperson and an emerging manager should be doing to help grow their firm. Join us for another Emerging Manager Growth Show. This is one you're not going to want to miss. Hello, my name is Guy Costin, founder CEO of Dakota, and the Dakota Way is officially live on Amazon, where you can buy it right now, both Kindle and soft copy. The Dakota Way covers the 4 core principles of investment sales, which is 1, set expectations, 2, know who to call on, 3, know what to say, and 4, have a killer follow-up system. These are our internal nomenclature for how we describe the things that we should be doing to become world-class fundraisers. It's all in the book. It's incredibly simple, which is the good news. You can buy it on Amazon. I promise you it works. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at guy@dakota.com. The book's available at Amazon right now, both in Kindle and softcover. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Dakota Way Sales Coaching. I am Dan DiDomenico, president of Dakota Funds Group. I'm here with my partner, my colleague, Tim Dolan. Tim, welcome to the program.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
And look, we normally have Guy Costin here sitting in this seat, providing you with what we think are the key pillars and principles of having a well-established sales process. Guy recently released a book. He authored it along with Morgan Holycross earlier this year, The Dakota Way. This outlines how we've been living our careers for the last 20 plus years. Tim's been with us now for the better part of 15 years. I've been with Dakota since 2008. These are the time-tested practices that we've been employing since day one, and they've been evolving over time to the point where Guy was inspired to put together this book. Tim and I were just talking before the program. There's a how-to video or book for literally everything. Yep. But there really wasn't anything out there that put together very cleanly, very clearly a standard in what we think is a very high standard in an institutionalized investment sales process. So that's what Guy wanted to do. He wanted to create that value by providing this with people. And this program here is our chance to share with you our experience with each of the key pillars of the Dakota Way process. So that's what we're going to do with you all today. Tim, we talk about the importance of a sales process for investment fundraising and how critical it is. I think once upon a time, there was this notion that it was more just straight relationship-based, more opportunistic, and you could be successful in that way. There's still components of that for sure, but to be consistent in your sales application and process, you have to have what we believe and how we've been successful in raising over $20 billion in assets for our key partners going back to 2006. We believe you have to be far more methodical.
Yep.
You have to have a process. You have to execute against a plan. You have to set expectations. We're going to get into each of these key core principles that are laid out here in the book. And I will say that Guy's been very generous in saying that, look, if you want to email Guy at guy@dakota.com, he'll send you a free copy, he'll sign it. But it really is, if you're an investment sales professional just getting started, or if you're a seasoned vet, I am telling you this is a great read either to brush up on the way by which you've been approaching marketing and selling your investment strategy, for again, those that are new to the industry, it's a great framework for you to create the right habits, because we know that it does create the kind of success in fundraising that we're all looking to accomplish here. So Tim, why don't we start off core principles. Number one, setting expectations with your boss. We're then going to move into how to identify and target the right market, so establishing your TAM. One of my favorites is the next principle, which is be a master messenger. We're then going to talk through having a killer follow-up system, and there's a lot of different ways that we now talk about that through tracking and optimizing through a CRM, sales efficiencies, and how to leverage your time. And then we'll conclude with why fundraising, the challenges that it presents, having this in place, controlling what you can control. This gives you that proper framework to execute behind your fundraising efforts. So Tim, let's start off with setting expectations with your boss.
Yeah.
It could be a portfolio manager, it could be a CEO. Why is that so critical on the front end when talking about a fundraising process?
Yeah, and thank you for those opening comments, Dan. Obviously, we've been doing it now for quite some time, but a guy right out of college, I had no plan, no process, right? So as you'll see in the book, he had to put this in place. And really the first core principle of setting expectation is to alleviate a couple pain points in sales, right? There is the 18-month curse. So when you get hired or you're new, there's an expectation that you need to raise assets in the first 12 to 24 months. And about month 18, right, that's where the questions really start to come down. If you're not ahead of those questions and fully aligned with your portfolio manager, your boss, your colleague, right? So setting expectation is another way of saying creating a clear sales plan, a clear business plan, and to report that progress regularly. Everything we're going to talk about, these 4 core principles, it is a flywheel. So how do you do that, right, is also number 4, is leveraging a CRM. But not to skip ahead, you have to have that clear sales plan, that business plan, reporting against it consistently. We report to our partners on a weekly basis. So they never can question, what is Dakota doing? Who are they talking to? What is the pipeline? We put it in front of them, and they're like, this is great. And communicating that, and importantly, getting a sign-off and getting a buy-in to that sales plan before you even make your first sales call. Yeah. That way the PM knows exactly what good should look like, right? And getting that buy-in, communicating to that buy-in, because again, PMs think you do one meeting and that you should be closing after that one meeting, right?
Of course.
Or, hey, we need to be talking to this guy. It's perfect, but is there an end zone there? Can we actually win money? So setting those clear expectations, getting that buy-in, getting that sign-off, right? And then that leads you into, right, the execution of the sales plan and of the business plan.
Yeah, you want to be on the same page with whomever it is that you're reporting to. So if you're a single fundraiser at a boutique investment manager, you clearly want to have this sales plan, this business plan, and you want to be reporting against it. Even if you're a member of a larger team, you want to have your individual sales plan that you're communicating up to whomever it is, your sales manager, so you're all on the same page and you're able to measure what those results are. Mm-hmm. Again, getting back to controlling what you can control, right? So if it's more activity-based, especially in those early days, are you covering your accounts? And that's what we're going to get into here with our second core principle, which is knowing who to call on, establishing that addressable market, that TAM. And depending on what it is that you're covering, if you're more geographically aligned, if you're more channelized, or if you have the entire universe of allocators in the US or outside the US, you want to make sure that you are, we have a lot of different Dakota-isms. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you're selling, if you're selling oranges, you want to make sure you're selling to orange buyers.
Yep.
So there's a lot of effort that goes into that and qualifying who are those appropriate allocators, those natural buyers of your investment strategy, and set those targets very clearly so then you can measure your penetration rate against what it is that you said you're going to cover.
So we like to say internally, right, because we work with managers on a third-party basis across long-only equity and alternatives, right? We always like to say internally that product structure drives channel coverage. And what does that mean, right? So when we have a new relationship that comes in, if it's a mutual fund separate account, who are the largest buyers of mutual funds and separate accounts. That's the RIAs, the family offices, the banking broker-dealer channel, and select institutions. So that's our TAM. On the private side, if it's a longer lockup QP only product, right, that's a different channel, maybe some RIAs, some family offices, but largely more of an institutional sale. So any product structure, right, will create the TAM for you, and then it's executing against it. Yeah. So this is where, if you are a solo salesperson or either a team, right, you can be broken down by channel coverage or by geography. But for the purposes of let's just, as an example, a solo salesperson, right, you have a mutual fund separate account, you're calling on RAs, banks, BDs, and the family offices. That's thousands of accounts that we have in our database, Dakota Marketplace, and it can be overwhelming, right? How do I cover 5,000 accounts as one person? So what we do is something called city scheduling. And what this does is it provides structure by focusing on a subset within your TAM, right? So the RAs, for this illustration, there's 3,500 that use outside managers. But if you go to Chicago, there's probably about 120 that buy oranges, and we're selling oranges. That's manageable, right? So what that means now is the city scheduling with a clear email and phone call script. You're reaching out, I'm going to be in town with our portfolio manager. Here's our strategy. Can you meet at 11 a.m. on July 24th? Clear call to action. So that continuous process, so you hit Chicago with the RAs, then Denver, then Dallas, then LA, and you consistently follow that process. The city scheduling is that organizational tool to cover a very large TAM.
I think that process was actually born out of you starting with us. But it does create great purpose in your day. You know, when you show up, you have these 5 cities that you're scheduling for. To your point, it helps you chunk the data to the point where it becomes a lot more manageable. It's a lot more digestible. And then if you're consistent in that, you're covering the country fairly regularly. And if you have that proper cadence and frequency every month, every quarter, right? If you consistently have those 5 different cities that you're scheduling for, you're going to cover a lot of ground.
Exactly.
Fantastic. All right, so the next one, and this is extremely important. Again, as I mentioned on the front end, one of my favorites is being a master messenger. So you're asking for people's time. To your point, your city scheduling, you have that clear call to action, they take the meeting, right? Now what? Right now you're in the meeting, either you're with a portfolio manager or you're not with a portfolio manager. Either way, you need to respect that you now have the time with the gatekeeper, an analyst, a director of research, a CIO, whoever it may be. We need to respect and maximize the time while we're in there. And I think far too often people make the assumption that, hey, I send a pitch book in advance. They know who I am, they know what we do, and I'm just going to throw up all over them in terms of what it is that I want to share and go through each page of that presentation. You know, we think about it very differently. And it's all in the power of the preparation that you want to do. Be a student of who it is that you're calling on, what's their background, and we have a lot of information, both in Marketplace and otherwise, that you can take in, learn about them to then tailor and customize your remarks to what's going to be most important to them. But I will tell you, what most people, portfolio managers or salespeople, what they glance over in the front end is centering the conversation. So that's captivating them in that first 1 to 2 minutes of a meeting, letting them know who you are, what you do, and why they should care. And you have to have that message. It has to be powerful. It has to be the hook to get them interested and centered to listen to the rest of the presentation and your comments. And you do want to make it as conversational as Q&A as possible to make sure you're matching what they need to hear. So I'd say that's a lot on the front end, you preparing, you learning about who it is you're talking to, the organization, how they invest. A lot of that is public information. We capture and provide that in Marketplace on the front end. So utilize it, leverage it, so you can optimize your time in that meeting. Then you want to be able to get into in the meeting, how do you differentiate yourself? Right? Again, if you're just going through page by page, if you're long-only equity, just going through your process and your funnel, everybody's got one. But call out what it is that the impression that you want to leave with that analyst, with that gatekeeper. And it may just be 2 to 3 things that you want to make sure you emphasize so they remember you and they will want to take your next meeting. We always said we judge ourselves on, you're not going to win the business in the first meeting.
No.
Success is whether or not you brought value into that meeting, so they want to take the next meeting.
And well, importantly is that meeting, they are taking probably 3 to 5 bullet points, right?
Yep.
Taking those down because they have to go tell someone else exactly what you just talked about for 45 minutes to an hour.
Great.
Right? It's a little bit of a game of telephone there. So what are they walking away with in that meeting that they're never going to forget and say, wow, we got to meet these guys. Again, we got to meet the portfolio manager. Whether or not we do anything, this is so interesting.
Because it's rare that you're talking to the person that's going to make a solo decision.
Exactly.
They need to talk to their investment committee. They need to get buy-in. They then need to talk to their advisors or their investment board, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
There's somebody else that they need to report to and retell your story.
Yep.
It's a great point.
So before we go on to the last core principle, which a lot of people would guess, follow-up, which is interesting because it's not. We always get asked, and Guy's always been asked from a lot of our customers and subscribers of Marketplace and other salespeople, Guy, how do you follow up after a meeting? And he says, we don't. We follow up in the meeting.
Great point. Yep.
And what does he mean by that is you need to have a clear next step, as Dan, you were just going through, is our next step is to get the next meeting, right? That's our next step, right? But what is the allocator's next step? A lot of salespeople will never ask that question, right? Is where do we fit in your asset allocation program? Is there going to be an opportunity in the next 12 to 18 months for a search within our asset class? Depending on those answers, right? Then you can ask the next hard question, and it is difficult and uncomfortable at first, but you need to ask, just so everyone is on the same page, do you believe we could fit within that search? And if they say yes, then you know the next steps are going to be an on-site, the DDQ, right? The data room if you're on the private side, but you have to have those clear next steps and get alignment with also the allocator. So then you're not leaving the meeting, you're not sending over 1 million documents and attachments, not hearing back, right? That's where you know exactly coming out of the meeting if there is a next step. And if there isn't, that's totally fine. Put them on the mailing list and continuously keep them updated. But the follow-up happens in the meeting.
Critically important.
Yes.
What you just laid out there is so important. You have to ask those tough questions while in the meeting so you know not only what are the next steps, but how should this opportunity even be classified within your opportunity pipeline? Because otherwise it's a massive guessing game.
When I first joined in 2012, a couple meetings to start, Guy would always come in, Tim, how was the meeting? It was a good meeting. So they wired us money because that's the only reason it's a good meeting, right? That effectively, that question was, did you ask the hard questions in the meeting? What are the clear next steps, right? And it is uncomfortable to start, but once you realize you're actually helping the allocator as well, in that it's like, look, I want to make sure we're on the same page. I don't want to bombard you with information that's not a fit for you, right? There's different ways you can massage it, teach their own comfortability, right? So
as you pointed out, right, we ban those responses to describing a meeting. You can't say just great meeting or good meeting. The answer is, here is the next step.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. Well, let's move on. And Tim, I'd say, this is one that you truly have mastered in how to leverage a CRM. We use Salesforce.com. We've used it since the inception of the firm. The way that we have it organized, you've become such a master and student of it, constantly learning. There's always great capabilities within Salesforce that we're trying to apply to make all of ourselves more efficient, more productive. But just talk to everyone about how the tracking and the optimization with the CRM just makes you more powerful.
Yeah. So it's I think about it in two ways. One, as I touched on the top of the 4 pillars, was this is a flywheel, right? So setting expectations, number one, with your boss and your colleagues and your team, and reporting against those. The reporting part is now you're going to ask yourself, how am I going to report against the sales plan? That is leveraging a CRM in terms of you're logging your meetings and calls. So you're logging your activity so you can run past activity reports. You can run what's upcoming so you can see where you're going and your team can see where you're going, as well as your pipeline. So logging all of your opportunities with clear notes, next steps, the primary contact, and all of those CRM activities that you're putting in there one are shared internally, because that's your report card, if you will, against the sales plan. But then it's the pipeline management, which is ensuring sales activities lead to measurable outcomes, lead to business over time, with those clear call to actions and clear next steps within the opportunity. So not only does it help me, myself, but also the team, right? It's our own scorecard, but there's Excel spreadsheets not flying around, yellow pads of paper, right? It's all right there. And you always say this on a number of shows, right? It's all in the spirit of providing sales trigger and sales action, right? Time flies in this business. I mean, I was in Chicago in January. It felt like 3 weeks ago, right? And so looking at your past activity reports, it caused sales trigger. It's like, wow, I need to get back to Chicago, or I need to follow up with this account or contact, but also your pipeline as well. And that's why we review these reports as a team internally weekly, but also with our partners weekly as well.
We're such, from city scheduling to getting out on the road, we are such big proponents of it, that in person, establishing a relationship. But you're spending money, you're spending time. You're going to Chicago, right? You're staying in a hotel, you're flying on a plane, you have meals. You are wasting your time, you're wasting all those resources of the firm if you're not tracking your activity, what happened and transpired in that meeting, to then follow up on it.
Yeah, and that's, I'll fully admit,
things do fall through the cracks if you don't do it.
The hardest part, not the hardest, but one of the hardest parts of a salesperson is getting those meeting notes into Salesforce and tracking all of that information into Salesforce. It is a leverage tool to help you save time going forward. And it's trust me, I'm at fault for it. It makes you
so much more effective, that's for sure. All right, so we talked about that efficiency, being more productive, how to leverage a CRM. Tim, let's close this out and let's summarize for people, because again, I believe that having this process in place, you're creating good habits. We know that it's really difficult for us to truly influence the timing of investment and allocation decisions. There's a lot of macro factors. There's a lot of issues with individual clients and their timing of when they're liquid, when they're not. This is so outside of what we can control. This provides you with that framework and process to be more methodical about your outreach, being very effective within a meeting, asking those tough questions for then the opportunity pipeline to be established. And this is, I think, the fun of it, is it takes on a life of its own, right? You start to see the movement, having the CRM in place to truly leverage all your prior activities, right? It really becomes a lot more fun. It does take some of the stress out of it. Like we all know that we have the stress of fundraising. That's what we do. That's what we're out there to do. But if you really focus on having the process, establishing the relationships, just being a master of the story and telling it the right way, capturing those notes, having the right sales triggers, asking the right questions within the meetings, it all starts to come to life. And we know that by following it over time, good things are going to happen.
What's so interesting about the Dakota Way book and the sales process is that we are fundraisers selling investment strategies that follow a very defined, strict investment process. This is no different for a fundraiser, right? We're used to talking about the investment strategy and its process. That's being the master messenger in the meeting and understanding that and relaying it. This is now for us to internalize our own business, our own sales process as fundraisers that we believe and we know it works over time. There can be just a little tweaks here and there around the edges for each person individually, but following this, it's all about scale, it's all about efficiency, it's all about managing expectations, right? And avoiding that dreaded 18-month curse, if you will, if you are a new salesperson or starting at a new firm, right? You want to alleviate the pressure, if you will.
Get off that treadmill. It's a vicious cycle. By having a process, and we know this is a long-term process-driven game. Even if you're in private equity and these are more episodic fundraisers, we always say when we're working with a private equity manager that it's not only about fundraising for Fund 1. all the efforts that we're doing, the seeds that we're planting, that's about fundraising for Fund 2, for Fund 3.
Yep.
So we do think about the long game. So everything that we talked about, we think is very applicable to somebody that's out there marketing a long only, more of a perpetually offered investment strategy, to those that are employing private equity strategies with more definitive timelines, those episodic fundraisers. There are so many principles, and the framework of what we laid out, the structure of what we laid out, I believe is applicable to all investment salespeople. And we hope that this episode has helped. Tim, thank you so much for being a part of it. Again, having Guy in this seat, who's been the author, the architect behind what you read here. But I promise you, a Tim Dolan, an Andrew O'Shea, a Ryan Creighton, myself, this is what we've been living and breathing. It's evolved over time, and we know that's time tested and successful. So hopefully you found this to be helpful. If there's anything that you need from us, or we can be additive to talk through any one of these core principles, is what we love to do.
Yep.
So we appreciate all your time. We appreciate you joining us. We look forward to the next episode of the Dakota Way Sales Coaching. Thank you very much.
Hi everybody, thanks so much for watching. If you have an interest in having me come in to your team and speak to your team, a lot of people want me to come in to speak to the younger groups just about the 4 core principles of investment sales based on the Dakota Way book, I'd love to do it. I'd love to see you guys, and I'd love to help out any of your teammates as it relates to fundraising and techniques to make them a world-class fundraiser. Simply email me at guy@dakota.com.